when you feel like a burden, you have started doing the math in your head, not out loud, never out loud, but quietly in the spaces between conversations, between moments when people around you seem fine and you are very much not fine. You have been running the calculations. How much of you is too much? How often you have needed something? How many times you have said, I'm not doing well, to the same people who have their own lives, their own problems, their own weight to carry. And the conclusion of math keeps reaching, the one you keep trying to argue yourself out of and keep finding yourself back at, is that you are a burden that the people who love you would, if they were being completely honest, have an easier life without the particular weight that comes with knowing you. That thought is one of the most dangerous lies a suffering person can believe, and it is also one of the most common, which means you are not alone in thinking it, even though it is specifically designed to make you feel like you are. This reflection is going to stay with that thought, not to dismiss it, but to dismantle it, carefully, with the truth, the weight that love chooses. Galatians 6 verse 2, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Notice what that verse assumes. It assumes there will be burdens. It assumes that being in community with other people means carrying weight that is not your own and being carried in return. It does not say, try to need as little as possible so that others don't have to carry you. It says, carry each other, mutually, as a practice, as a fulfillment of what love actually looks like in action. The idea that you should not need anything, that needing makes you a burden, is not a Christian idea. It is not even a particularly human idea. It is a language of a culture that has mistaken self-sufficiency for virtue and vulnerability for weakness, and it has gotten into the church and into your head, and it is producing exactly the kind of isolation it was designed to produce. You were not made to need nothing. You were made to need, and to be the kind of person who can also be needed. The giving and the receiving are both part of what it means to be fully human. Refusing to receive because you don't want to be a burden does not protect the people around you. It cuts them off from one of the most profound ways they can love, which is by carrying something with you, the God who entered need. The incarnation is the most radical reframing of need in the history of the universe. God, the one who needs nothing, who is complete in himself, who depends on no one for anything, chose to enter human flesh, to be born helpless, to need to be fed and held and carried, to grow up in a body that got tired and hungry and thirsty, to need the company of friends so much that he chose 12 specific people to be with him, to need, in Gethsemane, for someone to stay awake with him. He chose all of that, not because he had to, because he wanted to enter fully into the human experience, including the part where you need things and need people and cannot do it alone. Your need is not a defect. It is the shape of what it means to be human, a shape that God himself took on willingly as the ultimate act of love. If needing made someone a burden, Jesus was a burden, and no one who has ever encountered him would call him that. What you are actually doing to the people who love you, here is something the burden math never accounts for. When you let someone in, when you tell the truth about how you are doing, when you allow someone to carry something with you, you are not depleting them. You are trusting them. And being trusted with someone's real pain is one of the most meaningful things a person can experience. The people who love you do not want the managed version of you. They want you, the actual you, the one who is struggling, the one who doesn't have it together, the one who needs something. Not because suffering is beautiful, but because you are. And the you that is suffering is still you, still worth knowing, still someone they chose. You are not a burden to the people who love you. You are the person they love. Those are not the same thing. If these words are landing somewhere that has been closed for a long time, if the burden math has been running quietly in the background of your days, let this be the moment you hit pause on it and hit the like button, not for the algorithm, but as a small act of saying, I heard this. Something in me is still open, and subscribe to Whisper of Grace if you want to keep finding these reflections every week for the ones who are carrying more than they should carry alone. The lie underneath the math. Let's look more carefully at where the burden math comes from. It almost never comes from people around you actually saying, you are too much. Most of the time, the people in your life have not said that. They have shown up. They have answered the phone. They have said the right things, even imperfectly, even when they didn't know what to say. The burden math is generated internally by a mind under the influence of depression, of anxiety, of a pain that's gone on long enough to start rewriting the narrative of your relationships. Depression is a powerful storyteller. It takes real data. Someone was distracted when you called. Someone forgot to check in. Someone seemed tired when you reached out. And it builds from that data a conclusion that the data does not actually support, that you are too much, that you are wearing people out, that they would be relieved if you needed less. That is not observation. That is interpretation. And it is interpretation filtered through a pain that has its own agenda, which is to isolate you, because isolated people are easier to keep down. Reformed theology names this clearly. The heart is deceitful above all things, not just our conscious choices, our feelings, our perceptions, our internal narratives about who we are to the people around us. We are not reliable narrators of our own worth, which is exactly why we need a truth outside ourselves, a word spoken over us by someone whose perception is not distorted by depression or fear or the accumulated weight of hard seasons. And that word is this: you are loved, fully, without reservation, not in spite of your need, but with complete knowledge of it, by a God who invented love and who has never looked at you and calculated whether you were worth it. When Jesus needed people, John 11, Lazarus had died, and Jesus, the one who was about to raise him from the dead, the one who knew exactly what was about to happen, wept. He did not need to weep for Lazarus. He was about to fix it. He wept because Mary was weeping, because the people around him were in pain, and he entered that pain with them rather than standing apart from it in divine composure. And then, John 11, verse 35, the shortest verse in the Bible, 2 words, Jesus wept. He let them see it. He did not protect them from his grief or manage his emotions to avoid making things awkward. He was fully present in his own need, the need to grieve, the need to be moved, the need to be human in a moment that called for it. If the Son of God wept in front of people and called it appropriate, then your need, your grief, your struggle, your inability to hold it together sometimes is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be present in, honestly, without apology. The ones God specifically came for. Luke 4, Jesus stood up in the synagogue and read from Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, the poor, the prisoners, the blind, the oppressed. These are not the self-sufficient. These are not the people who have it together. These are specifically, by definition, the ones who need something. And Jesus did not say he had come to spite them. He said he had been anointed for them. They were the mission. You, in your need, in your struggle, in the season where you feel like too much, are not on the margins of what Jesus came for. You are at the center of it. The good news was always for the ones who needed it most. And needing it most has never made anyone a burden. It has always made them the point. You are the point. The burden math is wrong. Not just because the people around you don't see you the way it says they do, though that is true, but because it is built on a foundation that does not exist. You are not a burden to God. You are the reason, the specific, known, named, chosen reason that grace exists, not for the ones who had it together, but for the ones who couldn't, the ones who needed, the ones who came with empty hands and nothing to offer but the weight of who they are. That is you, and that has always been exactly enough. Before we close, if you know someone who is running this math right now, someone who's been quietly shrinking themselves to take up less space, send this to them. You don't have to say anything. Just send it. And if you want to keep coming back to this space, subscribe to Whisper of Grace. New reflections every week for the ones who are carrying more than they should carry alone. Lay the math down. You do not have to keep running the calculations. The numbers will never come out right. Not because you are a burden, but because the equation was wrong from the beginning. You were never meant to justify your need. You were never meant to earn your place in the lives of the people who love you. You are loved because you are you, not because of what you contribute, not because of how little you require. Because you are you, known, chosen, held by a love that did not count the cost and did not find you wanting. Lay the math down. It was never yours to carry. With grace, Whisper of Grace.